Right, so Tony Khan's Ring of Honor is a wrestling promotion that is ran purely just on vibes. There's no plan, just vibes. You'll hear absolutely nothing about Ring of Honor and their weekly TV show and what's going on Ring of Honor other than the few Ring of Honor champions and Ring of Honor wrestlers that appear on AEW TV. And then when the pay-per-view season is coming up, they'll just throw together some crazy card a week before and get everyone's attention, and then usually put on a great pay-per-view card, with the shows being very interesting. But if you're gonna hear about a Ring of Honor pay-per-view at all, it's only about a week before the show takes place when Tony Khan decides to wake up and lock in and actually put a card together, as Ring of Honor in 2025 has been in a really weird place, and I don't really know how to explain why. Because this year for Ring of Honor was probably the most relevant the brand has been since Tony Khan bought it. You've got Bandido appearing frequently on TV with the Ring of Honor belt, same with Athena was appearing on AEW TV at a certain point too, Mercedes Mone of course as well, and just those three names I said there are three of the top wrestlers of the year, and two of them are primarily on Ring of Honor TV. But that's the thing, whilst Ring of Honor was getting good exposure and good PR from these great workers, you just aren't hearing anything at all about the actual Ring of Honor product. So whilst you are actually hearing about Ring of Honor and its existence a lot on AEW TV, you just have no idea what's actually going on the show. I mean, who does? It's been a weird year for Ring of Honor for 2025, and the build up to Ring of Honor Final Battle 2025, their final pay-per-view of the year, was also a very weird one as well, because it followed that exact cycle that I said at the start of the video. You have no idea what's going on in Ring of Honor TV, and then a week before the pay-per-view the card just spawns out of nowhere and it looks like a banger card, usually most of the time. There was a whole load of shenanigans in the build up to Ring of Honor Final Battle, such as last minute card changes like the Lee Moriarty and Commander match being changed to a Lee Moriarty versus Nigel McGuinness match just kinda out of nowhere. There were a couple of weeks where they did multiple episodes of Ring of Honor on that week, including shows on YouTube that were posted for free that you can watch just again out of nowhere. I guess they had to catch up on storylines or something. It was in one of these episodes that Zayda Steel was introduced as a new AEW / Ring of Honor roster member. I don't know if she's actually been officially announced as a signing yet, but if she has, very interesting to see someone debut in Ring of Honor to begin with. And then there's been the Women's Pure Title Tournament, which, what can I even say about this tournament? This is probably the worst managed and worst booked tournament in wrestling I've ever seen. How does a standard 8-person single elimination tournament that began in April only just conclude now? How does that make sense? 8 months long. So the Pure Women's title got announced, then it got delayed, I believe, due to injuries, so it was a couple months after that the tournament would finally officially begin, and then even so, it was just taking ages. They only completed the first round matches a couple of weeks ago. I think Deonna Purrazzo in that time had 8 matches in Ring of Honor, and only one of them was in the tournament, you know, after the tournament had already been announced and was ongoing. She was just having other non-tournament matches while the tournament just wasn't going on still. And it got worse on the Go Home Show 2 Final Battle that took place this last Thursday, which I'll discuss a bit here because this may be one of the worst Go Home shows I've ever seen. It opened the show with Commander and the Beast Mortos, which is a match that actually makes sense as it's building towards a match that two of them are involved in at Ring of Honor Final Battle. It ends in a DQ in classic Ring of Honor fashion, you know, always known for their DQs, that's sarcasm of course, but it's one of the only actual real matches on the card, as after that it's a squash match with the Premier Athletes against some unsigned people, then it's a squash match with Sidney Akeem, the former Reggie in WWE, or Scripts you might remember him as he beats some random guy in 4 minutes in a match that was filmed nearly 2 months ago. Then Dalton Castle and the Outrunners squash some unsigned guys, then the Death Riders of Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta squash some unsigned guys, and then Deonna Purrazzo and Queen Aminata finally have their Ring of Honor Pure Title Tournament semi-final match. Just kidding, Queen Aminata is injured and has been for months now, and it's only just been announced that now this match isn't actually taking place, and Deonna Purrazzo is getting a bye to the finals. That's right, after 8 months in this tournament, where Deonna Purrazzo only had one tournament match, they just cancelled a semi-final match a week before, and she gets a bye. 8 months long, and they didn't even have the full tournament finished. They missed out a match. How do you let that happen? Obviously, it's not Queen Aminata's fault. She's injured, but she's been injured for a month now at least. She had to miss Blood and Guts as a result of it. Why are we only finding this tournament has been forfeited now? They could have easily got a replacement or figured something out in that time. But yeah, Deonna Purrazzo is one of the finalists now in the Women's Pure title tournament, which I'm not complaining about. I think that's the correct decision anyway, but they could have found a way to have her earn it in a match against someone who subbed in for Queen Aminata. Could have done Zayda Steel there. That's a way to debut her, an interesting way to get her in, showcase one of your new signings. It makes sense. Why not? But nah, forfeit instead. But run over, as next up, Mercedes Mone, the Ring of Honor Women's TV Champion, came out and she squashed an unsigned wrestler in 30 seconds, straight in there and just straight out. This match was teased on AEW TV and it literally just lasted 30 seconds long. So anyone who tuned in just to see that, unlucky. And then the main event, the only other actual match on this show, was the other Ring of Honor Women's Pure Title Tournament semi-final match, which did actually take place as Billie Starkz defeated Yuka Sakazaki to confirm it's her against Deonna Purrazzo to crown the first Ring of Honor Women's Pure Champion. And yeah, that was the go-home show to Final Battle. They managed to get all the stuff together for the card. They managed to last minute pull together the finals for the Ring of Honor Women's Pure Title Tournament. They left it on the go-home show to the pay-per-view with a bye and a forfeit match that didn't take place. But yeah, just a horrible go-home show and a great demonstration as to why nobody talks about or watches Ring of Honor. And this is in stark contrast to the pay-per-view Final Battle itself, which we are going to go ahead and talk about here, as the show did have a 0 hour that I wasn't really tuned into. They had the Outrunners beat the Premier Athletes from what I'm reading here. Leda Gray defeated Zayda Steel. I did see a bit of this match because the match on the feed just totally crashed. And the live feed, nobody got to see the finish of this match. If Ring of Honor are smart, they'll do something and say that Zayda Steel's debut was so popular that she crashed the place and crashed the servers. They'll do a promo like that. That would be the smart thing to do. Ace Austin beat Lee Johnson, and then the Death Riders of Garcia and Yuta defeated the Grizzled Young Veterans in a match that seemed okay from what I've seen. I saw a clip of a crazy coast to coast. And we get into Ring of Honor Final Battle's main card as we're live in Columbus, Ohio from GalaxyCon, as all the dorks are in the crowd, including Kyle is here, he's in attendance. And to open the show, we get the big dramatic payoff to the 8-month-long tournament, as finally we get the Women's Pure Title Tournament Finals to open the show. We get a video package telling us about Deonna Purrazzo and Billie Starkz and a recap of the Women's Pure Title Tournament. Very impressive how they fit 8 months into 1 minute. And yeah, Billie Starkz versus Deonna Purrazzo. It's a Pure Rules match to become the inaugural Pure Women's Champion in Ring of Honor. So if you don't know what the Pure Rules actually are, I've never explained this in video before, but I'll explain it now for you. Each wrestler has 3 rope breaks to stop submission holds and pinfalls, and after that they're no longer allowed to do rope breaks, so a wrestler can keep a submission hold locked in even if they're grabbing the ropes if they've used all 3. There's no closed fist, no open hand slaps, and you can't do low blows, obviously. You can do 2 of those before you get disqualified. You get 1 warning, obviously, and titles can change hands via DQ and count out, with interference resulting in an automatic termination from the roster, which is just crazy. And if a title match reaches its time limit, the winner is declared by a panel of 3 judges, which I've never actually seen before. I think they did that for like the Chris Jericho versus Cody match, or one of the early AEW world title matches I remember. It's more or less just a set of rules to make the match more quote-unquote pure, just to make it like a technical style match. But I'm usually indifferent to these kind of matches. I've never really seen one that I've loved, but I did like this one, and I'll explain why. The roles that both Deonna and Billie Starkz played in this match really added to the match. Deonna was the experienced babyface, great mat worker wrestler, whereas Starkz was the arrogant youngster who isn't really giving her vet opponent the respect she deserves. And Deonna, like I said, is using the rules to her advantage. She's using her ring mat work and wrestling a very pure style, whereas Billie Starkz is just just wrestling an anti-pure rules style. She's just kind of following the rules and hasn't changed her style completely, and I really liked that, and it worked really well in this match. It was way more interesting than just seeing two mat wrestlers go at it. It was an interesting clash of styles. Billie Starkz smashes Deonna's head off the stairs with a stomp. Deonna resorts to some of Billie's tactics as well, as then she smashes her off the announce table. Some good submission work from Deonna Purrazzo in this one, with a range of holds and great transitions, and fun offense from Billie Starkz, as Deonna Purrazzo taps out Billie with a Venus de Milo and some knees to the skull for extra measure after all her rope breaks were used up, and Deonna Purrazzo is the first Ring of Honor Women's Pure Champion. Wow man, the 8-month wait sure was worth it. Okay, maybe not really, but I am a big fan of Deonna Purrazzo, one of my favorites on the wider AEW roster, so very happy to see this, and a great way to open the show, a really good opener. I like this match, I'm happy with the result, and Queen Aminata does confront Deonna Purrazzo after the match, so an interesting program from when she returns from injury. That's great. As we move straight from that into a 30-minute Iron Man match. Yep, just that up next, as it's Nigel McGuinness, who is wearing his OG Pure belt, up against Lee Moriarty, who is the current men's Pure champion, but this is non-title action, and it's not a Pure Rules match, though countouts are on and so are disqualifications, so it's a purer version of an Iron Man match, so to speak. Obviously, we've got ourselves a marathon here. I'm not going to describe the entire thing detail by detail, obviously, as there is an early 1-0 lead for Lee as he gets Nigel to tap after just 3 or so minutes, and then he would make it 2-0 not too long after that with a quick roll-up and is straight back on the attack. I always find it interesting how they do the scores and what story they do in terms of the scoreline for Iron Man matches, and I thought the way they did it in this match was unlike in any way I've seen before. It was really intense. Big pops for Nigel doing the I've got till 5 as Nigel pulls one back with 10 to go and he taps Moriarty, and things just got very interesting as these last 10 minutes, or specifically the last 30 seconds, include some of the most dramatic action I've ever seen in an Iron Man match in wrestling history. Nigel pulls another one back to make it 3-2 with 2 minutes left, then with 30 seconds left he equalizes, getting Moriarty to tap out, and then instantly rolls him up to make it 4-3 with 12 seconds left. Then he's punched out by Shane Taylor, Lee Moriarty gets on top of him, and on the buzzer makes it 4-4, literally at 30 minutes. From 3-2 to 4-4 in just the space of 30 seconds. They timed that very well. I do kind of think they might have slowed down the clock a bit, but regardless, it was 1 second left when the 3 count was made, so good timing all in all, and it looked good live. So the match is a draw. Nigel is walking away, doesn't look like he wants to continue, but Lee Moriarty on the mic says that's not good enough, we're 1-1, we need to settle this, let's finish this off. So they get in the ring, it's sudden death now, and yeah, it's Lee Moriarty who comes out on top and wins in this overtime bit. A really great Iron Man match here, one of the best I've seen in years for sure. I'm not the biggest fan of Iron Man matches or any matches with like a time limit on the bottom left, because sometimes it can feel like they're working towards the time and there's certain time periods where you already know it doesn't matter what's going on, if you know what I mean. But they worked this one well with a great story. A really dramatic final minute was just crazy to see, but I thought the stuff they were doing between the falls was really compelling action as well. It was really interesting to see them work around the traditional Iron Man hardcore match with countouts and DQ still on. I thought they worked this really well, and after the match is over, Nigel McGuinness shakes hands with Lee Moriarty, and it's a big passing of the torch moment. I think it's time Lee Moriarty, Ring of Honor world title push. Gotta be done, right? But we move straight from that, and I couldn't believe this was the next match on the card, as up next, Red Velvet is out to challenge Mercedes Mone for the Ring of Honor Women's TV belt, and I thought this was quite weird card pacing, as we're going from a long, dragging, kind of exhausting match to a fast-paced, typical Mercedes match. So I thought right out the gate they've got a bit of a hill to climb with this crowd, but as Mercedes Mone is often able to do, she got the crowd back alive for this one, but Red Velvet as well worked this match so well. Some of the offense and reversals from Red Velvet in this one were just insane. A really great sprint from these two to follow that Iron Man match up is a really hard thing to do, and they had maybe an even better match, which is just crazy. And I don't usually go out my way to praise booking and say that specific booking is very good on a wrestling show, because you gotta wait for the payoff, you gotta wait for the long game and play the long game. But in this case, Red Velvet had a bank statement reversal into a pinfall and got the win to regain her belt, winning the Ring of Honor Women's TV belt back, and it's great booking. This has to be the start of the losing streak for Mercedes Mone. Surely the Empire is about to start crumbling now. She's going to start losing her belts, and this could be a really interesting time for Mercedes Mone right now, as she put Red Velvet over here in a big way, and this match was just really good. It was an awesome match, and Red Velvet had a great performance in it herself. I wanted to see her win the belt back. I was reluctant if AEW were going to actually pull the trigger and do it, but sure enough they did, and Mercedes Mone has dropped one of her belts, as Red Velvet is your Women's World TV Champion once again. But yeah, moving on from that, this middle part of the show is definitely a bit of a filler part of the show, and by that I mean, these are the matches that really suffered on the card, having to follow Mercedes Mone versus Red Velvet, which was already a challenge, having to follow the Iron Man match. These guys now have huge battles ahead of them, and the matches here in the middle of the card were probably the more forgettable matches on the card, though they weren't bad. So you first had LFI of Sammy Guevara and the Beast Mortos up against Adam Priest and Tommy Billington for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles. These are vacant belts now. Sammy Guevara and Roosh from LFI were the original champions, but Roosh got injured, so the belts have now been vacated. I didn't think this match was bad, I just wasn't really super locked in for it. I really like Adam Priest and Tommy Billington as a team, and I really thought they should have won this one, as Sammy Guevara and the Beast Mortos did actually pick up the win and are the new tag champions. I really thought that Tommy Billington and Adam Priest should have won this. Sammy Guevara has now been the Ring of Honor tag champion for like 2 years now. Matter of fact, these are the last 5 Ring of Honor tag team champions. Let me read this out to you. First of all, current champion Sammy Guevara and Beast Mortos. Before them, vacant. Before that, Sammy Guevara and Roosh. Before that, vacant. Before that, Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes. It's been like this since 2024. Can we get some new fresh faces in this tag division? Tommy Billington and Adam Priest, I feel, were perfect to freshen up things. Then we had Eddie Kingston versus Josh Woods. This was a match that was really just so randomly announced out of nowhere. I think maybe a day or so before the show, maybe even on the day of the show. I thought this was fine, better than the previous tag match for sure. I thought this was one of the more motivated Kingston performances I've seen since he's returned back from injury. He gets the win here over Josh Woods in an okay match. I'm interested to see how his match against Samoa Joe coming up soon is gonna go, as Eddie Kingston has had an interesting return to AEW since coming back. Then we had a match for the Trios belts. It's Shane Taylor Promotions of Carly Bravo, Sean Dean, who are the Infantry, and Shane Taylor, of course, up against Skyflight of Top Flight, Dante Martin and Darius Martin, and Scorpio Sky. Nice little trios match here, didn't overstay its welcome by any means, I don't think. Top Flight are my guys, I love watching those guys work, they do awesome sequences in every match, and I still think they should be doing a lot more on AEW TV itself. It's been that way for a few years now. And Shane Taylor Promotions do get the win here. There's some antics from all the people at ringside, like Agogo, Adora, Daniels, and Layla Gray. But yeah, Taylor Promotions, they get the win to retain the 6-man belt. Shane Taylor Promotions are definitely a staple of Ring of Honor. Then there's Ricochet and Dalton Castle for the AEW national title, an AEW belt being defended on the card. Of course, national title, the entire appeal is that it's going to be defended in other companies apparently too. And yeah, this match got a bit of build on some recent episodes of AEW Collision, I believe. Ricochet and Dalton Castle. I like Dalton, he's a good worker. I would like to see him on AEW though, to be honest. I think he's done everything there is to do in Ring of Honor. Let's get him doing some stuff in AEW. I think he got injured on an AEW show, so they clearly had plans for him at first. I wasn't super locked in with this one. I was just kind of fatigued from how far into the night we are and the amount of crazy action we've seen, but I thought these guys did a good job. It's one of the only matches that got some actual build, and also I found out that this is the first time that Ricochet has ever wrestled in Ring of Honor. Is that not a crazy statistic to you? I should say it's the first official appearance for Ricochet in Ring of Honor. He did a dark match in 2009, and earlier this year, he did wrestle for a Ring of Honor episode on the Jericho Cruise, but this really is the first real appearance from Ricochet on Ring of Honor, which is just crazy because he's just the kind of guy you would assume was a big name in Ring of Honor at some point. He did New Japan, he did PWG, he was a big name on the indies, but nah, just never appeared for Ring of Honor, which is crazy, but he retains the belt here, so new beginnings for him in Ring of Honor for Ricochet. Next up is our world title match, and it's the co-main event. It's a survival of the fittest match, which from what I understand is just a 6-person elimination match. And it's the most random lineup I've ever seen, as Bandido is of course defending the belt against Blake Christian, Heshishiro, Commander, and Sammy Guevara and the Beast Mortos, who are doing double duty and are already the tag champions tonight. Why? What is this lineup? This is so random. There are surely people you could have put in that other than Sam Guevara and the Beast Mortos, or even just make it a 5-way match and replace one of them. Why did they need to do this? This is a 2024 Rampage-ass match. I think this was the match I was least locked into for the night. Obviously, Bandido is one of the wrestlers of the year, but it doesn't seem like there was really a set opponent or story for Bandido for this pay-per-view cycle, and I don't really know if Bandido was really involved much in the TV cycle for this Ring of Honor pay-per-view. Sammy Guevara and the Beast Mortos are eliminated first, at least, before Commander is then gone, which I think was the wrong order. He should have been the runner-up in my opinion. Then Blake Christian is gone, and it's him and Hechicero, or Bandido and Hechicero I should say, are the final two, which probably could have predicted they faced off so many times. And yeah, Bandido and Hechicero, they have great chemistry from their previous battles. This was a nice one here. Bandido does eliminate Hechicero and retains his belt here in a long match once again. I don't think this match had too much purpose on this card, to be honest. I wasn't the biggest fan of it and the biggest fan of the lineup and how just random it was, to be honest. Didn't feel like a prestigious world title match in my eyes, though it was decent, and I do like Bandido, but Ring of Honor could have managed this a lot better, I feel, in my opinion. Once again, why are Guevara and the Beast Mortos in this match? But yeah, the main event on this show, and it's a deserving main event, is the Ring of Honor Women's World title, as Athena is up against Persephone. Athena is, of course, the top name in Ring of Honor, and has been for years, and now she's joined by Diamante, who seems to be a new member of MIT. Good to see Diamante getting some involvement. I've always been a fan of Diamante in AEW. This was a tad bit long. It went nearly 28 minutes after the last match. Also nearly went 28 minutes, but it's a classic Athena main event Ring of Honor banger. A standout performance from Persephone from the ones I've seen, but should Persephone have won is really the biggest question coming from this match. Of course, the action was amazing as always. Athena always delivers in the ring, but she retains the belt here, and I just can't help but think every time she retains the belt and goes into another calendar year holding the Ring of Honor belt, I just can't help but think, when is she going to lose? When is she going to get on the AEW main roster finally? She has done everything there is to do in Ring of Honor. Billie Starkz at this point has probably done everything there is to do in Ring of Honor, other than beat Athena, which she probably should have done a year ago. Great main event. The only reason I can think that Persephone didn't win is that she isn't officially signed. Maybe she's not on a dual contract. I don't believe she is. Of course, she's a CMLL wrestler. But man, 2026, get this belt off Athena, or at the very least, just get her as a regular on AEW even while she's holding the belt. Bandido can do it, why can't her? But anyway, to give my overall grade on this show, I am giving it a solid, very, very solid, I should say, 8.5 out of 10, top to bottom. This card was pretty damn good. My favorite matches on the card were the Nigel McGuinness and Lee Moriarty Iron Man match, and then I thought the 3 women's matches all really delivered as well. I thought Deonna Purrazzo versus Billie Starkz was an awesome way to open the show. Mercedes Mone and Red Velvet had probably my single match of the night. Mercedes Mone, once again, my match of the night. How does she keep doing it? And Athena versus Persephone was a great main event. I thought the matches on this card I didn't really care for were the survival of the fittest, of course. That's thanks in part to just how random it was and the lack of build to it. And that middle stretch of the card I didn't really care about too much. It wasn't bad, it was just really the tag belt match that I wasn't really the biggest fan of overall. And of course the other negatives are just the build to the show or lack thereof, and the show pacing was a bit off as well. I was definitely very fatigued between the end of the Mercedes Mone Red Velvet match and the main event, for sure. I really felt it. But yeah, people seem to agree that this was a big banger Ring of Honor show. It is the highest rated Ring of Honor pay-per-view under the TK era thus far. With the exception of the Jay Briscoe tribute show, it's the highest rated Ring of Honor show of the TK era period on Cage Match since the purchase was made. So that's pretty good to see, I guess. But in reviewing both the Go Home show, a TV episode of Ring of Honor, and the pay-per-view itself, you can just see the contrast and see the big problem as to why no one cares about Ring of Honor overall. Yes, the pay-per-view was amazing, but what does it even matter if we didn't know it was taking place until the day before, if at all? Ring of Honor TV has needed freshening up for so long, but it's been reported on many times that a Ring of Honor freshen up is coming and then it just doesn't. We've been through the motions so many times. It feels like AEW has attempted to try get that Ring of Honor TV deal so many times and tried to push for it, but it's just not gonna happen, is it? And I just don't think anything's gonna happen with Ring of Honor TV, and they're not gonna restructure anything until that TV deal has been made, because there's just no upgrades to make and they don't really seem to care about it. They just plonk these random Ring of Honor squash matches at AEW TV tapings to half a crowd of people who don't really care about them, and why should they? They need to get a dedicated base for Ring of Honor. They used to do it in Universal Studios. I don't know why they stopped doing that. That was great. That was awesome. Bring that back. Obviously, I've said all these critiques so many times, but they just don't have the feel for Ring of Honor other than the pay-per-views. The TV shows do not feel like Ring of Honor at all. The pay-per-views, they feel like a Ring of Honor show and what it should be. TV needs restructuring for Ring of Honor, or if not, just scrap it and do monthly events or bi-monthly events, or just the pay-per-view schedule you have. The pay-per-views speak for themselves. The build doesn't do any justice to it and doesn't really get any hype going for the shows whatsoever, because no one is tuning into Ring of Honor TV and nothing compelling is going on Ring of Honor TV, as we demonstrated by watching that god-awful Go Home show. What a contrast to the pay-per-view that show was, just worlds apart. But okay, run over. Ring of Honor Final Battle, a very good show. Tony Khan's Ring of Honor is a very, very wacky promotion that needs to figure itself out. But yeah, that's about my thoughts on the Ring of Honor Go Home show, the current state of Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor Final Battle 2025. Overall, a very satisfying Ring of Honor Final Battle event. I'm interested to see what 2026 is going to hold for Ring of Honor, and of course we will be following and keeping up with Ring of Honor, as probably one of the only people that does. Like this video if you did enjoy it, and comment down below what you think of Ring of Honor and you think of the Ring of Honor Final Battle event. Make sure to use Top 10 Wrestling on the Fortnite store for your V-Bucks. Subscribe with notifications on so you never miss a video. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye, and keep on rolling.